I saw my parents having X last night, but there were more than two people. I'm Maya, 23 years old, living back at home after my lease ended last month while I saved up for a better apartment. It was supposed to be temporary, 3 months tops, but that night changed everything about how I saw my family, my childhood, my entire life. It was 2 a.m. when I got home from my shift at the restaurant. I work late nights as a server, and the tips are better after 10 p.m., so I usually don't get back until well past midnight. The house was dark except for a dim glow coming from the basement. Our basement was finished when I was in high school. My dad turned it into this entertainment space with a huge TV, a bar area, and comfortable couches. Sometimes my parents hosted their friends down there for game nights or movie marathons. I figured they'd fallen asleep watching something. I was thirsty, so I went to the kitchen first, grabbed some water, scrolled through my phone for a few minutes. Then I heard it. Music. Not loud, but definitely on. Some kind of slow jazz that my parents would never normally listen to. I thought maybe they'd left the TV on. I headed toward the basement stairs to turn it off so it wouldn't run all night. That's when I heard the voices. Not talking. Something else. I should have stopped right there. I should have gone back to my room. But there was something in the tone. Something that made my stomach twist. That pulled me forward even though every instinct was screaming to turn around. The basement door was cracked open maybe 3 inches. The light was low, reddish, like they'd put up different bulbs. And the sounds were clearer now. I looked through that crack. My mother was on the couch. My father was next to her. There were 2 other people. A man and a woman I'd never seen before. And they were all together, touching, kissing. More than that. I stood there frozen for maybe 5 seconds. It felt like 5 hours. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. These were my parents. My normal, boring, suburban parents who wore khakis and argued about whose turn it was to take out the recycling. I must have made a sound, a gasp or something, because suddenly my mother's eyes opened and she looked directly at the door. Directly at me, I ran up the stairs, grabbed my keys, and got in my car. I didn't even remember the drive. 1 minute I was pulling out of the driveway, and the next I was parked outside a 24-hour diner 3 towns over, shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. My best friend Amber answered on the 4th ring. Maya, it's 2 in the morning. Are you okay? I wasn't okay. I told her everything. She went quiet for a long time. Are you sure? She finally asked. Like, are you absolutely sure it wasn't just my parents, Amber? There were 4 people. 4. Holy shit. Yeah. What are you going to do? I had no idea. I sat in that diner until 6 a.m. drinking coffee that tasted like dirt and watching the sun come up. My phone buzzed 17 times. My mom, then my dad, then my mom again. I didn't read the messages. I couldn't. When I finally went home, I waited until I saw both their cars leave for work. My dad's an accountant. My mom works in real estate. They left at their normal times, like nothing had happened, like the world hadn't just shattered. I packed a bag, clothes, laptop, important documents. I was leaving. I'd figure out where later, but I couldn't stay there. That's when I found the note on my bed, my mother's handwriting. Maya, we need to talk. Please don't leave. We love you. This doesn't change who we are as your parents. I crumpled it up and threw it across the room. How could she say it didn't change anything? Everything had changed. The foundation of my entire childhood had just revealed itself to be built on lies. But I didn't leave. Not yet, because there was something in that note. The way she wrote it. So calm, so prepared. Like she'd thought about what she'd say if this moment ever came. I went into their bedroom. I'd never snooped before. I was always the good kid. The one who respected boundaries and privacy. But that was before. Their bedroom looked normal. Boring even. Beige walls, a queen bed with a floral comforter my mom got at HomeGoods, family photos on the dresser, me at my high school graduation, me and my younger brother Tyler at the beach 3 years ago. We looked happy. We looked normal. I opened my mother's nightstand drawer. At first, I didn't see anything unusual. Hand lotion, reading glasses, some receipts. Then I moved the receipts and found a small leather journal. My hands were shaking as I opened it. The entries went back years. The first one was dated 8 years ago when I was 15. Robert and I went to our first meeting tonight. It said, I was so nervous I thought I might be sick, but everyone was so welcoming, so normal. They're lawyers and teachers and nurses, just regular people who happen to approach relationships differently. Robert held my hand the entire time. I think this might be what we need. I sat down on their bed and kept reading. My parents had joined some kind of community. She didn't name it directly, but it was clear. They'd been doing this for 8 years. Meeting people, hosting parties, traveling to conventions, all while Tyler and I were upstairs doing homework or playing video games, completely oblivious. There were pages about specific encounters, but she didn't go into graphic detail. Mostly it was her processing her feelings. Jealousy she worked through. Joy she felt about her marriage getting stronger. Gratitude for the friendships they'd made. Tyler asked me today why I seem so happy lately. One entry from 6 years ago said, I told him I'd just been getting more sleep. I wish I could tell him the truth someday. That his father and I found a way to keep our marriage alive and exciting after 20 years. That we chose each other every day, even while choosing to share ourselves with others. But he's too young. Maya's too young. Maybe someday. I felt sick. Not because of what they were doing exactly. I'm 23. I understand that adults have sex lives. I understand that marriages can be complicated, but this was my parents. And they'd been living this double life for nearly a decade, lying to us every single day. I heard the garage door open. Someone was home early. I shoved the journal back and ran to my room. Footsteps on the stairs. A soft knock on my door. Maya? My mom's voice. Can we please talk? I opened the door. She looked exhausted. Still in her work clothes, but her makeup was smudged like she'd been crying. I took the afternoon off, she said. Your father will be home soon too. We need to have a conversation. We sat in the living room, the 3 of us, 20 minutes later. My dad couldn't look at me. My mom sat forward, hands clasped, like she was about to give a presentation at work. First, she said, I'm so sorry you found out this way. We never wanted you or your brother to know. Not because we're ashamed, but because it's private, personal, and we didn't want it to affect how you saw us. Well, it's too late for that, I said. My voice came out harder than I expected. My dad finally looked up. We love each other very much, he said. More now than when we got married. This isn't about our marriage being broken. broken. It's about us finding a way to be happy while staying committed to each other and this family. For 8 years, I said. You've been lying to us for 8 years. We didn't lie, my mom said. We just didn't share every aspect of our private life. You don't tell us everything about your relationships, do you? That's different, is it? We went in circles for an hour. They explained their reasoning, their boundaries, their rules, how they only saw people together, never alone, how they'd built a community of friends who understood, how it had nothing to do with Tyler or me, how it never affected their parenting. Does Tyler know? I asked. They looked at each other. No, my mom said. He's only 20. We thought, I'm not telling him, I said quickly. That's not my secret to share. That's all yours. I went to stay with Amber that night. Her roommate was out of town, so I crashed on her couch. I told her everything that happened, every word of the conversation. So what now? She asked, handing me a glass of wine. I have no idea, but things got more complicated over the next few days. My brother Tyler called me, asking why I'd suddenly moved out, if I'd had a fight with mom and dad. I told him it was about rent money and needing space, which wasn't entirely a lie. I did need space. Miles of it. Then my mom called. Maya, please come home, or at least meet me for coffee. There's more you need to know. We met at a Starbucks halfway between Amber's apartment and my parents' house. My mom looked thinner than I remembered, like she'd lost weight in just a few days. I need to tell you something, she said once we sat down, about why we started all of this. The real reason. I waited. Your father had an affair, she said quietly. 14 years ago. You were 9. With his coworker Jennifer. It lasted 6 months before I found out. I felt like the ground dropped out from under me. Again. What? I almost left him, she continued. I'd packed bags. I'd talked to a divorce lawyer, but then we went to therapy. We tried to understand why it happened. And we realized that your father wasn't happy with just the traditional way of doing things. The sneaking around was about the thrill, the newness. So our therapist suggested we research ethical non-monogamy. You're telling me a therapist recommended you become swingers? She recommended we explore whether there were relationship structures that might work better for us, my mom corrected. It took 3 years before we were ready to actually try. We read books. We went to workshops. We made sure we were both genuinely comfortable. And it saved our marriage, Maya. It really did. I sat there processing. My dad had cheated. Everything I thought I knew about my parents' relationship was wrong. They weren't these people who'd fallen in love and stayed faithful for 30 years. They were complicated, flawed, human. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I don't want you to think we just decided to do this on a whim. We had reasons. And I don't want you to idealize your father or think I'm the one who corrupted him. We both made choices. Together. Over the next 2 weeks, I slowly started going back to the house. At first just for dinner. My dad barely spoke, which was almost worse than if he'd tried to explain. Tyler was there most nights, completely oblivious, talking about his classes at community college and his girlfriend Rachel. I watched my parents interact, small touches as they passed each other in the kitchen, inside jokes. The way my dad still opened doors for my mom, the way she still laughed at his terrible puns. They really did love each other. That part was real. But then I met Jessica. I was at the grocery store, loading up on ramen and frozen pizza, when a woman about my mom's age approached me in the produce section. You're Maya, aren't you? She said. Catherine's daughter? Catherine. My mom's name. I tensed immediately. Yeah, I'm Jessica. I'm a friend of your parents. She said it carefully, meaningfully. Your mom mentioned what happened. I just wanted to say, if you ever want to talk to someone who's not your parents about all of this, I'm happy to grab coffee. Part of me wanted to run away. But another part, the part that was tired of having no one to talk to about this except Amber, said, okay. We met 3 days later. Jessica was a high school English teacher, married for 25 years with 2 kids in college. She looked completely normal, like someone's suburban mom, which I guess she was. I'm not trying to convince you of anything, she said after we ordered. I just thought you might have questions that your parents can't answer. How long have you known them? 5 years. My husband Marcus and I met your parents at a hotel party in the city. We became close friends pretty quickly. Were you there that night? No, she said quickly. That was probably Michael and Lauren. They're newer to the community. I had a million questions. I asked about half of them. How often did they do this? Did their kids know? What did her husband think? Was she worried about diseases or jealousy or feelings getting too complicated? She answered everything honestly. Too honestly, maybe. By the end, I didn't know if I felt better or worse. The thing is, Jessica said as we were leaving, your parents are still the same people they've always been. They still love you. They still made you breakfast and helped with homework and showed up to every school event. This part of their life exists separately from their identity as your parents. But it doesn't, I said, because now I know. And I can't unknow it. No, she agreed. You can't. That night, Tyler called me. Okay, what's actually going on? Mom's been crying, Dad's been weird, and you barely come around anymore. Did something happen? You should talk to Mom and Dad, I said. I'm talking to you. You're my sister. Tyler, did they say something about Rachel? Do they not like her? Because I swear, if this is about, it's not about Rachel. I took a breath. It's complicated, but it's not about you. He was quiet for a moment. You're scaring me, Maya. I'm sorry. I can't explain right now, but we're all okay. I promise. After I hung up, I realized I'd just done what my parents had done to me for years. Protected him from information he might not be ready for. Kept secrets that felt too big to share. I hated that I understood their choice even a little bit. The next day I went home. Really home. I unpacked my bag and put my stuff back in my room. My mom was in the kitchen when I came downstairs. You're staying? She asked carefully. For now, I said, but we need to set some boundaries. We did. They agreed to only host their friends when I wasn't home. They agreed to be honest if I asked direct questions, but not to volunteer information I didn't want. I agreed to try to see them as three-dimensional people instead of just my parents. It wasn't easy. There were days I couldn't look at them. Days I came home and smelled unfamiliar perfume in the house and had to lock myself in my room. Days I heard them laughing on the phone with their friends and felt excluded from an entire portion of their lives. But there were also days where things felt almost normal. Movie nights where we'd watch old comedies and share popcorn. Sunday breakfasts where my dad made his famous chocolate chip pancakes. Moments where I remembered they were good parents parents, even if they were complicated people. Then one night, about a month after everything happened, my mom knocked on my door around 10 p.m. Can I come in? I nodded. She sat on the edge of my bed like she used to when I was little and couldn't sleep. I need to tell you something else, she said. And this one might be harder. I braced myself. What could possibly be worse than what I already knew? Your father and I are opening our marriage even further, she said. We're each going to start seeing other people individually, not just as a couple. What? We've been talking about it for a year, working through it in therapy, and we think we're ready. We'll still be together, still be married, still be committed to each other, but we'll have the freedom to develop meaningful connections with other people too. So you're basically getting divorced without the paperwork, I said flatly. No, we're expanding what our marriage can be. We're acknowledging that one person can't meet every need, can't be everything to another person. That's what marriage is supposed to be, I said. Finding the one person who is everything. My mom smiled sadly. That's a beautiful idea, honey, but it's not realistic. And trying to force it, trying to be someone's everything, that's what leads to affairs and resentment and divorce. Your father and I are choosing honesty instead. I didn't know what to say. This felt like a fundamental betrayal of everything I'd been raised to believe about love and commitment and partnership. Who? I asked finally. What? Who are you going to see? Do you already have someone in mind? She hesitated. His name is David. He's a widower. He lost his wife 3 years ago. He's not looking for marriage or even a traditional relationship. Just connection, companionship. I've met him a few times at community events. We've talked a lot. Your father knows. He approves. And Dad? Does he have someone? He's been seeing a woman named Alexis for about 2 months. I've met her. She's lovely. She's married too. Her husband knows. 2 months, I repeated. You've already been doing this for 2 months and you're just now telling me? We wanted to make sure it was serious before we said anything. We didn't want to worry you unnecessarily. I felt that familiar anger rising again. Stop protecting me. Stop deciding what I can handle. You're right, my mom said quietly. I'm sorry. We keep getting this wrong. After she left, I called Amber. She picked up immediately. They're basically getting divorced, I told her. Except they're staying married while dating other people. That's called polyamory, Amber said. My cousin does that with her 2 boyfriends. Your cousin is 26 and lives in Portland. She's supposed to be weird. My parents are in their 50s and live in the suburbs. Maya, Amber said gently. Maybe the problem isn't what they're doing. Maybe it's that you're realizing your parents are real people with complicated inner lives that have nothing to do with you. I wanted to argue, but she was right. That's exactly what this was. The entire foundation of my childhood was the belief that my parents existed primarily as my parents. Their marriage was the backdrop to my life, realizing they had this entire separate existence, these needs and desires and relationships that had nothing to do with Tyler or me. It was like finding out I'd been living in a movie set instead of a real house. The weeks after that conversation were strange. My mom would mention she was having dinner with David in the same casual tone she'd mentioned going to yoga class. My dad would stay at Alexis's house overnight sometimes, leaving a note on the fridge. Be back tomorrow morning. Love you both. Tyler still didn't know. I watched him during family dinners, completely oblivious, talking about his plans to transfer to a 4-year college next year. Part of me wanted to tell him. Part of me wanted him to stay innocent forever. Then one Saturday morning, I woke up to voices downstairs. Multiple voices. I checked the time. 8:30 a.m. Who was here this early? I went downstairs in my pajamas and found my parents having coffee with 2 other people. A man about my dad's age and a woman maybe a bit younger than my mom. They were all laughing about something. Oh, Maya! My mom looked startled. I didn't know you were home. I thought you were staying at Amber's this weekend. I changed my mind, I said, staring at the strangers at our kitchen table. These are our friends, David and Alexis, my dad said carefully. Oh, David stood up and extended his hand. Nice to meet you, Maya. Your mom talks about you all the time. I shook his hand mechanically. He had kind eyes, warm smile. He looked like someone's dad, someone's husband, not like someone's whatever he was to my mother. Alexis gave me a small wave. We were just leaving, actually. We just stopped by to return some books. They left quickly, sensing the tension. My parents and I stood in the kitchen in silence. You brought them here? I said finally. To our house? Where Tyler could have seen them? Tyler's at Rachel's for the weekend, my mom said. We made sure. That's not the point. This is our home, our family home. And you're bringing our partners, my dad finished. They're our partners, Maya. You have a partner, I shouted. You're married to each other. We're married to each other. And we have other partners, my mom said. Both things are true. I grabbed my keys and left. Again, I was getting really good at leaving. I ended up at the park where I used to play as a kid. The swings were smaller than I remembered. I sat on one and called Amber, but she didn't answer. She was probably still asleep. Then I did something impulsive. I called Jessica. Maya? She sounded surprised. Is everything okay? Can we meet? We met at the same coffee shop. I told her about the morning, about seeing David and Alexis in my kitchen, about how everything just kept getting worse and more complicated. I keep waiting for things to go back to normal, I said. But they're not going to, are they? No, Jessica said. This is the new normal. How do you do it? How do you live this double life and not go crazy? It's not a double life, she said. It's just my life. All of it together. I'm a teacher and a mother and a wife and someone who has other relationships. Those things don't contradict each other. They're all just different parts of who I am. But doesn't it feel like lying when you're at parent-teacher conferences or school events, pretending to be this normal suburban mom? I'm not pretending. I am a normal suburban mom. I also happen to be other things too. You're a daughter and a server and a friend and probably lots of other things. Do you feel like you're lying when you're at work because you're not being a daughter in that moment? I thought about that. It's not the same thing, isn't it? We talked for 2 hours. By the end, I still didn't approve of what my parents were doing. I still felt hurt and confused and angry, but I was starting to understand that the world was bigger and more complicated than I'd been taught, that there were ways of living and loving that I'd never considered. When I got home that evening, Tyler's car was in the driveway. He wasn't supposed to be back until tomorrow. I found him in the living room with my parents, and all 3 of them looked at me when I walked in. We told him, my mom said quietly. Tyler's face was pale. smile. Is it true? I sat down. Yeah, it's true. For how long? He asked my parents. How long have you been lying to us? My dad explained everything again. The affair, the therapy, the decision to try non-monogamy, the years of keeping it private. Tyler's hands were shaking. I need to go, he said, standing up. I need to process this. Tyler, my mom started. No, I need space. He left. The house felt heavy with silence. Why did you tell him? I asked. Because you were right, my dad said. We can't keep protecting him forever. He's an adult. He deserves to know who we really are. Tyler didn't come home that night, or the next night. He stayed with Rachel, and when I texted him, his responses were short. I'm okay, just need time. Don't worry, but I was worried. We all were. 3 days later, Tyler came home. He walked into the living room where we were all sitting, me, my parents, pretending to watch TV, but really just waiting. I talked to Rachel about it, he said, and her mom, and my roommate Chris. Tyler, this is private, my mom started. You don't get to decide what's private anymore, Tyler said. You gave up that right when you decided to live this way. But here's the thing, Rachel's mom, she told me something interesting. She said that her marriage ended because her husband cheated and lied about it for years. She said she wished he'd been honest from the start, that they could have figured things out together instead of him sneaking around and destroying their trust. He looked at my dad. You had an affair. You broke mom's trust, but then you fixed it. You found a way to be honest and stay together. And I think that's actually pretty brave. None of us expected that. I'm not saying I understand it, Tyler continued. I'm not saying it's not weird and uncomfortable, but you're still together. You still love each other. You still show up for us. And maybe that's what matters. My mom started crying. Tyler hugged her, and then my dad, and then we were all just standing there in a group hug in the middle of the living room, and it was strange and awkward and somehow okay. That night, Tyler and I stayed up late talking. Really talking, the way we used to when we were kids and would sneak into each other's rooms after bedtime. Are you really okay with this? I asked him. I don't know, he said honestly, but I think I will be. Eventually. What about you? Same. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Tyler said, you know what's weird? I always thought our parents were boring, like the most ordinary people in the world. Turns out they're probably the most interesting parents any of us know. I laughed. He was right. Over the next few months, things gradually settled into a new rhythm. My parents stopped hiding their lives from us as much. When David called the house phone, my mom would answer naturally, hi David, give me 1 second. When my dad came home late from Alexis's place, he'd join us for breakfast and tell us about the movie they watched. It was still strange. Probably always would be, but it was becoming our new normal. Then one evening in late fall, my mom sat me down alone. I need to tell you something, she said, and I want you to hear it from me first. My stomach dropped. What now? David proposed to me, she said. What? Not marriage, obviously, but he wants us to have a commitment ceremony, a celebration of our relationship. He wants to acknowledge what we mean to each other publicly. And Dad knows? Dad knows. He's happy for me. Alexis will be there too. Will I have to come? My mom looked sad. I'd love for you to be there, but no, you don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. The ceremony was 3 weeks away. I told my mom I'd think about it. Tyler immediately said he'd go. Of course he did. Tyler was handling this better than me. You should come, he said when I expressed surprise. Not for them, for you. To see that this can actually work, that they're actually happy. I don't want to see mom marry another man while she's still married to dad. It's not a marriage. It's just a celebration. That's what a wedding is, Tyler. But eventually, I agreed to go. Mostly because Amber said she'd come with me for moral support, and also because deep down, I wanted to see if this was real. If my parents had actually found something that worked for them, or if this was all just going to implode eventually. The ceremony was in a small garden venue. There were maybe 40 people there. Jessica and her husband Marcus, Alexis and her husband Christopher, other couples I didn't know, Tyler and Rachel, Amber, and me. My dad was there too, sitting in the front row, smiling. David stood at the front, and when my mom walked down the aisle, his face lit up in a way that was unmistakable. He loved her, really loved her, and she loved him back. They exchanged vows they'd written, promises to honor and respect each other, to communicate honestly, to support each other's primary relationships while building their own. My dad was crying. So was Alexis, and I realized something. This wasn't about breaking up my parents' marriage. This was about expanding what love could look like. My parents' love for each other wasn't diminished by their love for other people. It was just different, bigger, more complex than I'd ever imagined love could be. After the ceremony, there was a reception. I talked to some of the other people there, a woman named Monica whose husband had passed away 2 years ago, and who'd found a community of people who understood her grief and her need for connection. A couple named James and Patricia who'd been married 43 years and started exploring non-monogamy after their kids left home. They looked at each other the way my grandparents used to look at each other. Your mom talks about you all the time, David said when he found me at the dessert table. She's so proud of you for being open-minded, for trying to understand. I'm not that open-minded, I admitted. You're here, he said. That's more than a lot of people would do. I found my mom later, standing with my dad and Alexis, all three of them laughing about something. Thank you for coming, my mom said, hugging me. It means everything. I'm still figuring this out, I told her. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand it. That's okay, she said. You don't have to understand. You just have to know that I love you, and your dad loves you, and nothing about that has changed. My dad hugged me too. Still your boring old dad, he said. Just slightly less boring. On the drive home, Amber said, you know, for what it's worth, I think your parents are kind of amazing. Yeah? Yeah, they messed up at first with the lying, but they did something really hard. They saved their marriage without pretending to be people they're not. That takes guts. A few weeks later, I moved out for real. Not running away this time, but actually ready. I found an apartment with 2 roommates, got a better job at a restaurant closer to the city, started building the life I wanted. Tyler came over to help me move my stuff. As we were loading boxes into my car, he said, do you think we'll ever be able to have normal relationships after growing up with all this? I don't know, I said, but maybe normal is overrated. My parents still host their friends sometimes. Tyler and I know about it now, and we make ourselves scarce when those nights happen. It's an unspoken unspoken agreement, their life, their space. But most nights when I call home, it's just my mom or dad answering the phone, asking about my day, telling me about theirs. They still come to visit my apartment. We still have family dinners every other Sunday. My mom still sends me articles she thinks I'll find interesting. My dad still makes terrible puns. They're still my parents. That's the part I keep coming back to. Through everything, the discovery, the anger, the confusion, the slow acceptance, they've still shown up as my parents. They still love me unconditionally. They still celebrate my successes and support me through my failures. The other stuff, the partners and the community and the unconventional life choices, that's their journey, not mine. I don't have to understand it completely. I don't have to live that way myself. I just have to accept that the people I love are more complicated than I ever imagined. Last month, my mom called me with news. She and David were moving in together, part-time. She'd spend 3 nights a week at his place, 4 nights at home with my dad. My dad was happy about it. He and Alexis had been talking about doing something similar. And before you ask, my mom said, your father and I are not getting divorced. We're still very much married. We're just creating more space for everyone we love. I know, Mom, I said. And I did. I really did. A few nights later, I was at dinner with a guy I'd been seeing for a few weeks. Nothing serious yet, just getting to know each other. He asked me about my family. I thought about what to say. A year ago, I would have described my normal, boring, suburban parents, their traditional marriage, their ordinary life, but now, my parents are interesting, I said. They have a really unconventional marriage, but they're happy. They taught me that love doesn't always look the way you expect it to. He nodded. That's cool. My parents are divorced, 3 times between them. I think I'd rather have parents who figured out how to stay together, even if it looks different. We talked more about families and relationships and what we wanted for our futures. And I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I still had moments of discomfort, moments where I wished my family was simpler, more traditional. But I'd stopped seeing my parents' choices as a betrayal. They were just people. Flawed, complex, trying their best to be happy while also being good parents. And maybe that was enough. Last week I went home for Tyler's birthday. The house was full. My parents, David, Alexis, Tyler, Rachel, me, Amber. We ordered pizza and played board games and laughed until our stomachs hurt. At one point, I looked around the living room at all these people who loved each other in different ways, in unconventional ways, in ways that didn't fit neatly into the boxes society created. And I thought about how a year ago this would have destroyed me. But now it just felt like family. My mom caught my eye and smiled. I smiled back because here's what I finally understood. Love isn't finite. It doesn't run out when you share it with more people. My parents loving David and Alexis didn't mean they loved each other less or loved Tyler and me less. It just meant they had bigger hearts than I'd given them credit for. That night, as I was leaving, my dad walked me to my car. You okay? He asked. I know this is all still a lot. I'm okay, I said. And I meant it. I'm actually really okay. I'm proud of you, Maya, for being open, for trying to understand. That takes real maturity. I'm proud of you too, I said. And I realized I meant that as well. For being honest, for doing the hard work to save your marriage, for not giving up. He hugged me tight. Still your dad, he said. Still my dad, I agreed. As I drove back to my apartment, I thought about everything that had happened over the past year. The shock, the anger, the betrayal, the slow journey toward acceptance. And I thought about the future. I didn't know if I'd ever choose non-monogamy for myself. I didn't know what my own relationships would look like. But I knew this. I'd stopped judging my parents for choosing it. They'd shown me that there's no one right way to love someone. No rule book for building a life together. Sometimes the most conventional path isn't the healthiest one. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit what you really need, even if it looks strange to everyone else. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Thanks for coming tonight. Love you, sis. I texted back. Love you too. Even though you're the favorite child now. He sent back a laughing emoji. I thought about my parents at home, probably curled up on the couch watching TV. Tomorrow my mom would go to David's place. Tomorrow night my dad would video chat with Alexis. And somehow, impossibly, it all worked. Because they'd chosen each other. Every single day they chose their marriage. They just also chose to define that marriage on their own terms. And maybe that's what love really is. Not finding someone who completes you or who's your everything, but finding someone who's willing to grow and change and build something unique with you, even when it's hard, even when it's unconventional, even when it means challenging everything you thought you knew about relationships. I saw my parents having sex that night, but what I didn't see in that first moment was the years of work behind it. The therapy and communication and boundaries and trust. The choice they made every day to be honest with each other, even when honesty was terrifying. I saw the act, but I missed the love. Now I see both. And that makes all the difference.